Lutheran Church Women live across the United States, Canada, and the Caribbean. They live in large cities, small towns, suburbs, and rural areas. Their needs, their interests, and their skills are as numerous as they are varied. Who are these women, and why do they choose to belong to Lutheran Church Women? I'm Sonia Ortiz-Romanowski, an LCW member from St. John's Lutheran Church in Fallcroft, Pennsylvania. I'm here to talk to 4 other LCW members about their own LCWs and about being a part of Lutheran Church Women and what it means to them. Our guests are Jean Hackborn from St. Jacobs, Ontario. Jean's a member of St. James Lutheran Church in St. Jacobs. She's a homemaker and a community volunteer who serves on the Municipal Council of Woolwich Township and the Regional Municipality of Waterloo. We also have Mary Melroe from Fargo, North Dakota, a member of St. John Lutheran Church in Fargo, and Mary's a fundraiser for the North Dakota Easter Seal Society. Mercedes Brown is from West Hempstead, New York. Mercedes is a member of the Lutheran Church of the Epiphany in Hempstead. She's also a student at the Union Theological Seminary in New York City. And, of course, Ruth Doty from Florence, Alabama. Ruth's a member of the Good Shepherd Lutheran Church in Florence. She's a marriage and family therapist. Hi, gang.
Hi.
We're all here to talk about the LCW and what it's meant to us. Mary, you bring some unique experience to the LCW. Could you tell us a little bit about the impact that you've had as a single parent upon your church and your LCW? Of course, you've been past president, and you've been on church committees, and you've had extensive personal growth and change. Tell us a little bit about your experience with LCW and your church.
Well, I think when I first joined the church, it was at that time unique for a single woman with 3 small children to be a part of the church. And because I had been a part of my women's group in the church I had been a member of before, it was very important to me to be involved again. And so I approached the women about coming to LCW, and I went to circle meetings, and I think they maybe were a little skeptical at first, and they saw me as divorced, and it was sort of a label and a thing that they used to identify me with. But they were very good in that they took the time to know me as a person, and realized that I had something to offer, that the involvement was important to me, and they were very receptive of me as a person after they got to know me.
Yeah, after the fear of threat, I guess, dissolved.
I think so.
And that has a lot to do with your personality. You're very, very dynamic. You brought some slides along.
Yes.
That perhaps we can share now. Maybe you can tell us what the slides are.
Okay. The first slide is a picture of me with my 3 children, 3 boys, Paul, John, and David. And that was on a Sunday morning when we were getting ready to go into church.
All right. Which one is reading the book?
That's a bulletin that John had in his hand.
And what have we got here? It looks as if you're in a meeting.
That's an LCW Executive Board meeting. And I served as treasurer for 2 years and then president as 2 years. And our board met monthly.
You've been an instrument of change, I think, in your church in some respects. How have you been an instrument of change? When you went into the church, were you the first divorcee, the first single parent?
Well, I think probably in our church before we had couples who were members as a couple and as a family who maybe had divorced, and I don't know exactly all those circumstances, but some of them maybe changed churches at that time, or one or the other would drop out. Right. But I moved at the time of my divorce, and I came into the church as a new person, and that's how I established my identity as a divorced person.
Yeah, I imagine that many more churches, as time goes by, will have to address the needs of single people, either divorced parents or just people that are single and don't have any children. Yesterday, I remember we were talking about this, and a number of us mentioned that we've become more aware of the needs of single parents. I think you mentioned, Jean, that there's invariably you'll meet someone who has a relative that has been divorced. How are things going along with your LCW now? You've become active. Have you been instrumental in developing any new groups?
Well, the one thing that we're doing that we had never been done before is one Sunday every year the women take over the whole service, and we call it our thank offering service. And we have a woman in our congregation who gives the sermon, and we have different people reading liturgy and doing music, and we just do the whole service. And then we brief the congregation on our specific ministry, the different things that we can give our thank offering money to, so that our congregation as a whole has become more aware of that project of LCW through the thank offering service.
Where's the pastor while all this is going on?
Well, I tell him he has two choices. He can either sit in the pew or leave town, and sometimes he does take that advantage to leave town. And sometimes it's worked out that it's been church business where he's had to be out of town one Sunday in the month of November, and then that's the Sunday we plan for.
That's great.
He's been really cooperative with us.
You've represented your church at some other organizations or some other meetings. Do you want to tell us just briefly?
Well, I was Lutheran Women promoter at the district level for 2 years and got to know people at the district. And then a year and a half ago, I was the chaplain for a synodical unit convention too. So that was interesting.
You're also a fundraiser with the Easter Seals.
Yes,
that's very exciting. Have you brought? I'm sure you've brought many of your skills to your church activities.
Well, I think all of our skills lap over into our church and our work and our family. We're one person, and we share our talents no matter where we are, what role we're playing at the time.
How old are your boys?
They are 5, 7, and 10.
God bless them.
Very
That's
active.
marvelous. That's great. Well, I'm telling you, it's so much. It's very exciting to know that our church is serving the needs of our young adults, of our single people, and of our single parents, as I'm sure you're well aware.
I think it's important that we see people as people and not with the labels on them.
That's wonderful. And you know, there are some young adults and some divorced people that from time to time do have to go to a family therapist to help themselves get back on the right track after having gone through this trauma. And Ruth, that's your area of expertise. Yeah, that's and I know that you come from a fairly small congregation.
Right. We have just over 100 members in the congregation, which means that we have about 35 women who could be LCW members. And we all work together, even though not all those 35 come to our circle meetings, our monthly meetings.
Yeah.
It becomes everybody's project when LCW does something.
Tell us about your miracles of love.
Okay. There's 2 programs I'm especially proud of that our LCW has done that have extended to the community. And the first started before I was a member of this particular church, and it's now become the Northwest Alabama Reading Aids. We had Marty Lane come down from Philadelphia and help us get started. And in 6 years that the organization has existed, we've tutored at least 160 adults, and we've trained about 200 tutors.
Did you bring a slide that has
Right.
a picture of the reading aids? Could you describe what's going on in the slide?
Okay, we're having a staff meeting here, and 2 of the people that are helping with the training are holding up one of the charts. And all the people there are involved in training the tutors.
Okay. Oh, what's going on here? This is something different.
This is something we're really proud of that we made about 5 years ago. One of our women designed this tapestry, and we all worked on it. It's a kind of a 3-dimensional tapestry that we hang up every Christmas.
That's lovely. How long did it take to make that tapestry?
Oh, about 3 or 4 months, I guess.
Yeah, that's quite a challenging project. You're also involved in another project.
This is our new project, which is called Safe Place. It's a shelter for victims of domestic violence, and we house 2 different sets of clients in the shelter. One is children that the welfare department have had to remove from their homes because they're abused or neglected, and the second group is adults who must come, and some bring their children with them.
Yeah.
And our LCW group helped to get a small grant from National Lutheran Church Women, which helped Safe Place to get a federal grant, and from that federal grant we bought our building.
That's marvelous. Tell us about, now this is something really interesting, tell us about the multiplier effect.
This is a word my husband helped me find. When he read over what I was thinking about and writing down, he gave it a label. The things that our LCW have done and participated in brings the love of God, which we experience, out into the community. And I can't be there to help everybody that comes to Safe Place, and none of our members can. But because of our caring, someone's housed, someone's taken in and fed and helped to be set up in their own apartment. And we can't go out and tutor everybody who can't read, but because we've helped get something started, that change is happening in those people's lives. And God loves them, accepts them, and it comes out as a new self-image. I can read where I didn't think I could ever do that.
Yeah.
Or I can get out of a situation that I thought I was stuck in.
Yeah.
And I think that's redemption in a nitty-gritty, concrete form.
There's been a change in the air. And the change is reflected in the fact that many more women are entering the ministry. And we have a grandmother who is a student at seminary. Hi, Mercedes.
Hi.
Now, you hail from West Hempstead, New York.
Yes, I do.
And you were active originally in the health field.
Yes.
And you have a very active LCW. You've been active, what, 21 years?
21 years.
And you recently decided to enter seminary. And you have a dynamic family. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your life and the LCW and how you relate to each other and how you've impacted upon each other?
Well, I think the LCW was instrumental in taking me from the pew out into the larger church. It made me very much aware of the needs, and it developed those skills that I didn't even know I had.
Mm-hmm.
And it gave me a joy about doing it, which meant that if I could grow, then all I could do was just be in the midst of women, and maybe we could grow together.
Yeah.
So that over the years, I think similar to Mary when she talks about the newness and some of the things you bring to LCW, a minority was also kind of a new thing. I served on the board, and I was one of two. And it got to we were women. We had a common denominator. The Lord was in the midst. And I think once you get to feel that, you get to forget the color of a person.
Yeah.
You just accept people. And,
Yeah, that's something that surfaced yesterday, wasn't it, when we were
Yes.
chatting? That had to do with the racial mix in your church, which probably is not even an issue. And it's something that you brought up, which I think is very, very interesting. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, address that?
Well, first place, we have 7 circles. And our circles are integrated, our
Yes.
church is integrated, and it's been a marvelous thing witnessing.
Yeah.
Because where we've had interracial couples, we service 5 towns, and they have tended to come to our church, which means that they're accepted as Christians, just wanting to belong and sharing fellowship.
Yes.
And this is kind of radiated out into the community
Yeah.
also. You know, the church is not a threatening building.
Yeah.
It's offering something to people.
Well, you're a very loving, a very effervescent individual. And I know that your LCW is also active in the area, as are the other LCWs. You're involved with the state hospital nearby. Do you want to?
Yes, we have an annual luncheon that we have some 30 adults from the psychiatric center in Pilgrim State and from Brentwood. And we have this luncheon every year, and the ages range from 20 to 70. So with that varied age, we have been able to witness with them the love. And for the moment, you never remember that these people have emotional problems.
Yeah.
They are just another Christian, men and women, singing, dancing, and just being happy.
Yeah.
And we look forward to that every year.
And you also provide for the spiritual needs of your women, I think specifically once a year.
Well, we have a retreat once a year,
Right.
and when I go back home on Saturday, we'll have our one-day retreat, and we look forward to that. That is a fellowship as well as a spiritual nurturing that we share scripture and go away with love, looking forward to the next one.
How did you was there any one thing that made you decide to enter the ministry, to enter the seminary?
Well, had it been some 20 years ago when women were in the ministry, I probably would have been a minister if I was
Yeah.
a man. But I would guess once you really say that with the Lord's help you can do anything, I no longer thought of myself as a female wanting to do something
Yes.
that I felt the Lord was prodding me to do. And when I said this around some ministers, and they kind of, and a young minister, my pastor said, well, why not? And I thought, well, gee, no longer is that stigma of being a female.
Yeah.
And my husband has been a marvelous supporter.
Great.
So with the family's love, here I am.
And speaking of your husband, I think you brought some slides along that we might want to look at.
Yes.
And it's you and an attractive gentleman there.
Yes, that is my husband, and we kind of catch each other as we can. He's a busy traveler, and we're discussing some bills, believe it or not, right there. And
And we have here,
we have an adult education forum that meets every Sunday morning, and I'm the chairperson. And we meet in the lounge from 9:15 to about 10:30. And you see our 2 pastors there, Pastor Chris and our associate pastor, Pastor Eccles. And when time affords it, they are able to join us. And our topic that morning was prime time. And it was really something.
that's great. I know that you're going to go far. God God willing. And as I said before, you're an effervescent person, and you're dynamic, and in the last 24 hours, it's been evident that all of you are simply infused with the Spirit and the love of God. It's marvelous. And Jean, you've been in politics. You bring something really, again, unique to this group. How did you ever become involved in politics?
I suppose I saw a need in my area. There was a lack of representation. It got to the point where no one wanted to do it. And my husband said to me, "Why don't you?" I said, "Oh, I've never done anything like that before in my life," although I've always had an interest in what was going on and who made the decisions and why they made them.
I think it was evident. After 30 years in the LCW, and you held just about every position?
Yes, that's true. But I think the LCW helped me to become the person I was at that time, to take an office. They were supportive, and they saw in me qualities which I probably wasn't ready to admit I had. They pushed me into positions where I had to learn, and I think they gave me some confidence in that respect.
Yeah.
And at the time when the opportunity presented itself, I was almost ready. And before you enter, of course, you have to have nomination papers signed, and the women were very supportive and signed nomination papers, and I ran my first election.
Oh, my goodness. And you've been in politics ever since?
This is my 6th year.
Oh, my goodness.
The first time I ran, out of 8 people who ran in my ward, and I was the only woman running. I came in 3rd.
Oh, my goodness.
I was really surprised.
Yeah, the first time. That's what the support of your friends and
yes,
your
it was
sisters
tremendous.
means. Yeah, it makes a big difference. I have a flyer, a poster that has come up that Jean bought from Ontario with her. And this how old is this now? This is from 1970?
That was from 1976. And that was my first political campaign.
Yeah, that's great. Tell me a little bit about how you actually, what was the issue that made you shift from the arena from the area that said, well, I think I'm interested, I think I've got the capability, to the point where you said, well, darn, I'm going to try.
I saw a need in the area in which I lived for senior housing. We live very close to a large metropolitan area, and we found that the members of our church had to leave our community to find a place to live. It meant that somebody had to get into a position where they could influence the government of the area and have a housing survey done, which pointed up the needs, and from which we could then get involved with financing from a government agency. There's no way you'll get financing unless there's a proven need. I think that I was influential at that time in getting this housing study done in our area. Now, that was 6 years ago, and I think we'll break ground this year.
Oh, that's
so it's
wonderful.
A very time-consuming thing.
Yes.
But I'm really very well satisfied with what we've been able to do.
Tell me a little bit about the position that you hold now.
In Woolwich Township, I'm chairman of Parks and Recreation, which means that I have authority over several arenas, swimming pool and all the athletic programs, minor ball, minor sports, minor hockey, everything that takes place for our young people in the community. On the regional level, I sit on Health and Social Services, which handles all the soft services in that area in a community that probably has between 300,000 and 400,000 people. And as a result of being on that committee, I serve on the Board of Family and Children's Services, and I suppose that, do you call it Children's Aid?
Yes, yes.
And which helps to plan all the programs, preventive, etc., that look after children in need.
Yes, that's tremendous. That's absolutely tremendous.
I'm enjoying it very much.
And how long have you been a member of LCW?
Oh, 30 years.
30 years.
I like to think that I helped it to evolve too, from Ladies' Aid to ULCW and now LCW.
That's wonderful. That's just marvelous. And you're all, as I said before, very, very dynamic, movers and shakers, obviously, in your own way. And of course, we all bring something unique to LCW, don't we? And we receive a great deal from LCW. If I had to ask each of you to sum up in a word what LCW has meant to you, or what it is to you, or what your LCW is, what would you say, Jean? Or phrase?
I would say that our LCW is very much aware and very much involved.
Mary?
I guess I would pick the word challenge. I think that I have been challenged as a person to grow through my activities in LCW and consequently in the rest of my life. And I think that it's a challenge to be involved in LCW, to encourage LCW to grow and to change and meet the changing needs of women in our society today.
So you see
I see it as a
instrument.
challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. Mary? Thank you, Mary. Mercedes?
Well, I think of the joy and in the love that I received and in the sharing over the years, that I would hope that I would be able to continue that, and that you never stop growing in LCW, that there's always so much to learn, and that we don't just meet people in church, that we have those Christians outside that I'd like to see come into the fold. So LCW has helped me be more aware.
Yeah. You've had a lot of contact with the community.
Yes, I have.
Haven't you? Yes, a great deal of contact. And Ruth, how would you sum your experience?
See it as very creative and redeeming. We really care that people become whole.
Is there a point at which that you can identify where you can say, yes, there was a certain period when I grew, I know that I grew when I look back, or there were certain experiences that I had that were actually the cause of my growth? Did you, can you think of any particular experiences like that with, that you've had with the LCW?
I held off joining this group because I guess I had an image of it. You just sat around talking, drank coffee, and maybe had a Bible study, but that was it. But when I saw the people that were in this group becoming active and caring about each other, then I just kind of flowed into it. It became a very natural thing.
And I think that's probably a very common experience for all of us.
Yes.
We're just kind of drawn in by that love and that fellowship. Yeah. Well, the LCW means different things to different women. To some it means support during a personal crisis. To others it means a group caring and praying for them as they tackle new challenges. To still others it means a group that will join in making a difference in the congregation and the community. Nearly 250,000 women belong to the Lutheran Church Women. We bring to this organization all kinds of needs and expectations, all kinds of talents and skills. Yet we are bound by a communion of ministry and proclamation and reconciliation. Together we are a powerful witness. Isn't that the truth?